Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa's Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm the teacher Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and also on the television at Bell Express View channel 972. You are always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available both from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we are in our third week of our 9-week course. You should be starting to think about submitting work at this point. So a reminder that the support questions, the ones with the little pencil icon, are not for marking. You can decide which ones and how many to do. If you're understanding a concept, feel free to skip questions. You don't have to do them all just because they are there. They are good practice, but if you don't have time and you're picking and choosing, spend time on what you're struggling with opposed to things that you understand. If you do need more practice and you'd like some more work, let me know and I'm happy to send you more practice. The key questions, the ones with the little key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So please do all of these questions. Don't skip any. Show all of your work, your steps, your thinking. This way I know what it is that you know. And if you are struggling with something, there is a better chance of me being able to help you understand. So how do you actually submit your work for marking? Well, there's 3 methods. The first is to scan your work and send it electronically. If you have a device, you can scan your completed work through an app. If you have an Apple device, the Notes app has a scan function, and if you have an Android device, the Google Drive app has a scan function. These are fairly straightforward point and click scans, but if you do need some support, on my YouTube channel, there are tech tutorials that walk you through how to use each of these individual apps. If you need more support, feel free to reach out and I can help you. If you can only take pictures to send it, that's the only thing that works for you, that's fine. Scanning them makes the files a little bit smaller and easier to send, but pictures are fine too. Then send them to me either through email to studentwork@nnec.owen.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.owen.ca, or you can send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. The second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at 74 Front Street. We're the bright red building next to the post office and have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. The third method is to hand in your work to your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students are also welcome to send their work in through fax. But if you do this, just give us a heads up, either a call or a message, so that we know that it's coming, just so that we can keep an eye out for it, as sometimes things go missing. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name B. Slate Wahsa. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel or friend me on Facebook, and then you'll get notifications every time I upload one of our radio Zoom classes. All of them are recorded and posted to YouTube shortly after broadcasting, but there's also videos that are short, compact, focused on one topic on my channel, things that cover common errors or really confusing concepts. So this is a good place to go if you're struggling with something, to check it out first in case I've addressed it, and it's just really easy to find. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Just listening to me on air will not get you the full experience, and you'll really be missing out on a lot of information. So check out the videos, either joining me live through the Zoom, whether or not you want to talk to me, that's fine. You don't have to, just be here, works for me. Or watching the videos on YouTube at your own leisure, whenever works for you, is also totally fine. If you don't have access to reliable internet and this is not an option for you, then let me know and I'm happy to send you a copy of the videos so you still get the full experience and are able to tap in to all the resources. If you have any questions, please Connect with me. My email address is bronwyn.slate@nnec.oed.ca. My Facebook, once again, is bslate-wahsa. Call me at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., though I teach from 9 to 11, so that is not a great time to try to get a hold of me. Today's lesson is lesson 7, and we are looking at simple interest. Our learning goals for today are that you will be able to calculate simple interest and you will understand the key elements when calculating simple interest. We will have met these learning goals because you can use the formula I equals PRT to calculate simple interest. You can explain the significance of constant growth compared to simple interest. And you can explain the details of interest rates and time periods in terms of simple interest. When will you use this on real life? Well, we're developing the skills to attack problems. As we continue to look at money, that is something that does show up frequently in our lives, but also being able to know how to attack different situations with different tools is really important, and that is a skill that we're developing. But first, let's activate our brain with some mental math. I don't believe in mad math minutes. They cause stress and anxiety in students and don't generally teach skills or confidence or comfort. So instead, we focus on developing strategies that focus on friendly numbers and your own way of thinking in order to do arithmetic and be comfortable with mental math. Our question today is 23 plus 26, and the strategy is near doubles that we're going to be using. So near doubles is the idea that doubling numbers or numbers that are adding together two numbers that are the same is something that our brains are pretty happy doing. Those are sort of touch points that our brain is pretty comfortable remembering. So if we use that tool of numbers that are close to doubles, then we can use that as a jumping off point to add numbers that are not doubles. So for example, 23 plus 26, both of these numbers are really close to 25. So if I need 2 more to get to 25 from 23, and I need 1 less to get from 26 to 25, and 25 plus 25 is equal to 50. That's a fairly comfortable, think of 2 quarters, you have 50 cents. But on the one side, I have 2 extra, and on the other side, I have 1 less. So really, if I combine those, plus 2 minus 1 is going to be plus 1. So then that means that I have 50 plus 1 more, which is 51. So 23 plus 26 is equal to 50. And that is all you need to do. So it's really fairly straightforward. Except that I did that backwards. I'm like, that's not right. So what did I do? I added an extra 2. So here, let me change what I've done. I'm like, that doesn't feel right. Sometimes they make mistakes. It happens. Okay, 25 plus 25 is still 50. This is the part that's tricky. We added 2, which means we need to take away 2. And we subtracted 1, which means we need to add 1 in order to compensate for what we did. So that means that we need to take away 1. And so 50 take away 1 is 49. So 23 plus 26 is 49. That makes more sense to me. I'm happier with that. So that is one thing, is that we need to do the opposite at the end, because we've already added an extra 2. So that means that we need to take away 2. And here we took away 1, which means we need to add 1. So if we take away 2 and we add 1, we're only taking away 1, which is where this -1 comes from. So as you can see, all of our brains sometimes make mistakes, but it's just a matter of looking at our answer and saying, 51, that didn't make sense to me. That didn't feel right. So I went back and I looked and I realized the mistake that I made, because mistakes are totally fine to make. All right, mine's on. What prior learning do we need for today? We need to think about what makes a year, because in simple interest, our time, we need to think about it as a year, but sometimes we are talking about it in terms of days, weeks, or months. So just a reminder that 1 year is equal to 12 months, which is equal to 52 weeks, which is equal to 365 days. So even if it is a leap year, we don't think about leap years and having 366 days. We just say general, 365 days is how many days there are per year. So this is just really important to remember, or to write it down so that you have this as a reference point of something that, as you moving forward, that we need it. Okay, but that's all that we need for prior in learning that we don't have already. So let's explore our new concepts. First, let's understand what interest is. So when we're borrowing money, and this is on page 15 of your IEL booklet. So this is one way to think about it. When you deposit money into a bank account, you are lending your money to the bank. They now have your money. They're keeping track of how much they have, but they're holding on to it. But it doesn't just sit there in the bank. The bank is potentially using it. So the bank then gives you money for borrowing your money, and this we call interest. Because you put your money in their bank, they now have access to it and can use it to invest or to do things, and then they give you interest for letting them borrow your money. When you get a loan and the bank lends you money, then they charge you interest for lending you money. So now you have the money and you have to pay them for allowing you to borrow money that you didn't have. So this is all called interest. Either money that you earn or that you pay for the use of money is called interest. And then there's a whole bunch of ways of investing money that is where you can earn interest. So GICs or RSPs, savings accounts are all investments and you would earn interest. But then banks, credit cards, payday loans, these are all lenders. They'll lend you money and you're paying interest to them. There are a couple of different ways that interest can be calculated. And today we're going to be looking at the method of that's called simple interest, which is the simplest, most straightforward way. We're going to start there and then get a little bit more complicated as we go. So when you're calculating interest, it depends on 3 different factors. The first is the amount of money that you have borrowed or invested, and this we call the principal, and we indicate it with the symbol a capital P. The second is the annual, which means yearly interest rate. So this is given as a percent generally, but when we are using it, we need to express it as a decimal. So we need to use those skills that we have been practicing of how to convert something from a percentage to a decimal and use that for the interest rate. This we express in our formula with a small r. Then the third is the time for which the money is invested or borrowed, so how long you're doing it. And this is always expressed in years. So this is what I was talking about before, about how we sometimes are not doing something for a full year. We're doing something for 6 months or a certain number of weeks. But we still, in our formula, when we're calculating interest, we still need to expand that into what it would be if we are doing it for a full year. And this is expressed with a small t. So our formula for simple interest is the interest is equal to, so the amount of interest that you earn or you're gonna have to pay is equal to the principal times the rate times time, which our formula is I equals PRT. Let's look at some examples. Example 1, complete the following table to show the growth of a $100 investment earning 10% simple interest each year. So here is our chart. We have 5 years that we're going to be doing it. We're going to do it for each year. We are noting the balance at the year beginning. So how much money we have at the beginning of the year. We have the balance that interest is calculated on. So how much of that money we are calculating our interest on. Then we have the interest that we earn and how much money we have at the end of the year. So in year 1, oh, sorry, I have to actually, my bad. Okay, so how we do this is so at the beginning of our year, we are investing, we have $100. That's how much we have to invest. So we are going to invest that $100. So that's what we're going to calculate the interest on. So our interest earned is equal to, that's that I equals PRT. So P is $100. Our rate, remember our rate is 10%, which is equal to 0.10 for as a decimal. And our time, we're just doing it for 1 year because we're just doing it each year individually. So 10% of 100, multiply that together, and we get that's equal to $10. So the end of the year balance is 100 plus $10, which is $110. So at the beginning of year 2, we now have $110. When we're investing, so we don't actually have to do anything differently. The bank is already, it holds on to all this money. We don't have to reinvest. It's just how it works is that we're just tracking. But in year 2, we still are only investing that original $100. So that means the interest earned is still 100 times 0.10 times 1 year, which is still $10. So now the end of the year balance, well, we had $110 before, and now we've added another $10. So we have $120. So the beginning of year 3 is $120. We're investing that original $100. So our interest is still the same amount because we're still just getting the interest for 1 year, 10% on that $10. So at the end of the year, we have 120 plus 10, which is equal to 130. So after a while, you'll start to notice, hopefully, a pattern that we are always investing $100 and our interest is always going to be $10 because we're always investing $100. Our interest is the same. So that means our end of the year balance is just $10 more than our beginning of the year balance. And it doesn't matter for how many years we do this, it's always going to be the same process. We're always going to be adding $10 for every year. So it's super important to notice that the interest is only earned on the original amount invested. That is the definition of simple interest. We're only earning interest on that first amount. Right. So just a reminder of converting rates, converting percentages. We've done this before, but just a reminder. Remember, percent means by 100. So we divide our number by 100. So 7% is equal to 7 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.07. 12% is equal to 12 divided by 100, which is 0.12. 1.25% is equal to 1.25 divided by 100, so 0.0125. 3.5% is equal to 3.5 divided by 100, which is 0.035. 24.75% is equal to 24.75 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.2475. And 19.83% is equal to 19.83 divided by 100, which is equal to 0.1983. So you can, hopefully this is familiar in terms of the pattern that you might see is that when you are, the shortcut that you can think about is that when you have a percentage, you're dividing by 100, but you can think about, well, we have a decimal point just after our whole number. And so we're going to move that over 2 places and put in a 0 in any voids that we have. So that's how 7% is equal to 0.07. And that's why 19.83. So we have we know our decimal place is, it needs to be 2 places to the left. And so that's how we get 0.1983. You can totally do the shortcut, or you can use your calculator, or you can just understand. If you just understand it, didn't know it, and don't have to think one of these things, that's totally fine too. But it's super important that you have to put your interest rates as a percent. Sorry, your interest rates as a percent need to be turned into a decimal when you're calculating. So you can do the support question now on page 16, question number 1. Now we also want to look at how time is broken down. We briefly mentioned this, but we want to look at it a little bit in more detail. Once again, time must be represented in years. That is key. When we're calculating interest, it has to be represented in years. So we have to remember, if we're converting, if we're given months, that 12 months is equal to 1 year. So if we have 21 months, if we're investing for 21 months, we do 21 divided by 12, which is equal to 1.75 years. So the number that we would use, so T would be equal to 1.75. If we do it in weeks, remember 52 weeks is equal to a year. So if we have, say, 45 weeks that we're investing for, then 45 divided by 52 is equal to 0.87 years. So it's less than a whole year, which makes sense. But that is going to be our T, 0.87. If we are given it in days, 365 days is equal to 1 year. So if we're borrowing for 550 days, 550 divided by 365 is equal to 1.75 years. Sorry, 1.5 years. So a year and a half is what your T would be. So this, again, is super important to remember. So let's do a quick practice of converting months to years. So we have 15 months is equal to 15 divided by 12, which is equal to, let's go to our calculator, 15 divided by 12 is equal to 1.25 years. 21 months we just did, so let's do 6 months. Or 21 months was an example. So 6 divided by 12, well, I know 6 divided by 12 is half, so that's 0.5 years. It's half a year. And then 3 months is equal to 3 divided by 12. So we can go to a calculator, whether or not, if you want to just check it, even if you have an idea, is equal to 0.25 years. So a quarter of a year. So whenever you have a number of months, you have to divide it by 12 in order to figure out how many years that is. And you can now do the support questions on page 17, question number 2. All right, so let's look at it all together, calculating simple interest. This is on page 18 of your IL booklet. So remember that I equals PRT. So when we're having variables, we don't write in the multiplication signs. If we have variables next to variables, it means that we're saying multiplying. So it's I is equal to P times R times T. I'm probably just going to say R equals PRT, as that is what I'm used to. And hope that you remember that that means that we're multiplying those variables together. So then let's remember what the variables are. So I is equal to our interest earned in dollars, how much money we make, or how much money we pay if we're borrowing. P is equal to your principal invested or borrowed in dollars. So it's the amount of money that you start with. R is your interest rate. Remember, this is per year. And this has to be expressed as a decimal. And T is your time in years. So you have to convert it to years. Okay, so here we have an example. Find the simple interest and the amount. So remember, the amount is, oh, I didn't define this. Okay, so the amount, what that means, it's the total amount that you have, or the total amount that you owe. And so how we find your amount, which we say capital A, is equal to your principal plus your interest. And that's what the total amount is that you now have or that you owe. Okay, so my principal is 640. My rate is 12.5% per annum. Per annum, it's another way of saying per year. So let's turn that into a decimal. So we're dividing it by 100, and so we get 0.125 is 12%. Our time is in years. We're already in years, so we don't need to change our time. We don't have to convert it to anything. So first, we're going to calculate our interest. So I equals PRT. So we say I equals P, which is 640, times R, which is 0.125, times T, which is 13. And so we're going to do that on our calculator. 640 times 0.125 times 13. When I'm multiplying, I put my numbers inside brackets, because remember, bracket times next to a bracket, it also means multiplication. If you want to put time signs in, that's fine too. It's just habit. So that equals to $1,040. So the interest that you earn, the free money that you earn, is $1,040. So your amount, your total amount, is equal to your principal, how much you originally invested, plus your interest. So the principal is 640, and the interest is 1,040. So the total amount of money that you now have is $1,680. And that's how you calculate a simple interest question. more practice. In this situation, again, we're finding the simple interest in the amount. Our principal is 1,500. Our rate is 6% per annum. So that is, sorry, just couldn't find my pen. Okay, so that 6% per annum is 0.06 as a decimal, and the time is 18 months. Okay, so it's in months, so that means we need to convert it in years. Well, 18 divided by 12 is equal to 1.5 years. So our interest is equal to I equals PRT. I like to always write down my formula so that it helps me remember what I need. And also it means that when I'm marking it, I can understand what it is that you understand if you're using the correct formula, or if you're doing something completely different, it gives me more information. So 1,500 times 0.06 times 1.5 is equal to, use a calculator. If you want to practice doing mental math and using some of the strategies we've developed, you totally can. But you do not need to. You can totally just fall back on a calculator, as that's not the important skill we're practicing right now. So that's $135. So our interest rate is significantly lower. And so our amount of money, even though we have more money, the interest rate is lower, so the amount is less. The amount of interest that you're earning is much less. So the amount is principal plus interest, which is equal to 1,500 plus 135, which is equal to $1,635. That's how much amount you have on this investment. Example 5. Still, we're doing the same thing. We're practicing this loss to make this really make sense. So we're finding the simple interest and the amount. Now our principal is 480. Our rate is 3.5% per annum, which is equal to 0.035. And our time is 75 weeks. So we have to convert that into years. So 75 weeks divided by 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year. That I don't know in my head exactly how much. I can guess it's around 1.5, but it's going to be, oh, it's good if I put the numbers in the correct order, huh? 1.44 years. Okay, so our interest is equal to I equals PRT is equal to 480 times 0.035 times 1.44 is equal to, put that again in a calculator. I know writing it all out can feel long and tedious, but again, if you make a mistake, it gives me so much more information if you've written it out than if you don't. If you just write down the answer, then I have no idea where it came from if it's wrong. So this is equal to $24.19. So our amount is equal to principal plus interest is equal to 480 plus 24.19, which is equal to, well, 20 plus 80 is going to be 500. So $504.19 is how much you'll have at the end. Another example 6, find the simple interest and the amount. So your principal is 3,210. Your rate is 12.75% per annum, and your time is 200 days. So again, our rate we need to turn into a decimal, so 0.1275. Our time we need to convert to years. So 200 divided by 365 is 0.5479, so I'm going to say 0.55. If you want a more precise answer, instead of dividing it and rounding off the decimal, you can just leave it in your question. You can just do you can just leave it as the division in your question. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I equals PRT, 3,210 times 0.1275 times, and here you could put 200 divided by 365 instead of putting 0.55. Both of them are this, it's the same idea. I'm going to show you how you'll get a slightly different answer. So 3,210 times 0.1275 times 200 divided by 365. So, oops, I don't want to do that. So that gives us $224.26. And I'm just going to quickly show you if we round it off to 0.55, we get $225.10. So it is a difference of like 75, 80, 84 cents. So it's not a big deal. I will mark both of these correct. If you were looking for a more exact answer, or if you're doing this and comparing numbers to somebody else or to a financial institution, if you are rounding off, their answers might be different because they are not rounding off. So just something to be aware of when I am marking. If you get a number that's fairly close and you show me your steps and I know that you've done the right steps and it's just probably a rounding error, then I still give you full marks. So then the amount is 3,210, an extra digit in there. Plus $224.26, which is going to be $3,434.26 is how much you have at the end. So hopefully you're feeling pretty confident with the method about doing this. So now you can do the support questions on page 19, question number 3. I also want to show you linear growth because simple interest grows linearly, which is in a straight line. So here looking at example number 7, we predict which simple interest investment will be worth more at the end of the term. We have option 1, which is 4,000 invested at 6% per annum for 5 years, or we have 4,000 invested at 4% per annum for 7 years. So which one do we think is going to be worth more? Is it better to have a higher investment rate and invest it for shorter time, or to have a lower investment rate and invest it for a longer time? So generally people say that it's better to invest for more years. So we're going to guess that option B is better because longer is better for investments. So then we're going to determine each amount and we're going to check our prediction. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. So we have option 1, I equals PRT. So 4,000 times 0.06%, not percent, 0.06 times 5 years. It's in years already, so we don't need to do it again. I don't need to convert it. So 4,000 times 0.06 times 5 is equal to 1,200. So the amount is equal to principal plus your interest, which is equal to, I'm running out of space, so I'm just going to say 5,200. It's 4,000 plus 1,200. So our option 2 is I equals PRT, which is 4,000 times 0.04 times 7 years. So doing that on a calculator, so we're seeing, is it better to do it for longer at a lower rate or shorter at a higher rate? So this gets us $1,120. So the amount that we'll have in total is our principal plus our interest, which is 4,000 plus $1,120, which is $5,120. So actually, option 1 is better. So having, in simple interest, having the highest interest rate, even if it's for a little bit shorter, is better than the lower interest rate for longer. Good to know. So if we graph this, if we either go on Desmos and graph it, which is what I've done, or if we use a table of values and graph it, we can see that this red line, which is investing at 6% for 5 years, grows faster. It's a straight line. It grows at a constant rate. It's adding 6% every year, but it grows, it starts and at the same place, and it grows faster over time. Whereas the blue line shows the 4,000 invested at 4% per annum for 7 years. And we can see that this line is less than, it's not growing as quickly, it's not as steep as the red line. So it is a better investment in terms of borrowing money. But we're growing at a constant rate. Okay, so now let's look at example 8. If we predict simple interest investment will be worth more at the end of the term, so we have option 1 again, which is 2,000 invested at 5% per annum for 2 years. Or we have 4,000 invested at 5% per annum for 1 year. That's our second option. So we can think, is it better to invest less money for 2 years or more money for 1 year at the same interest rate? Well, again, this time I'm being drawn to option 1 is better. Again, because it's longer. But let's see. So here, let's see if I'm right. If my gut is right or if it again is wrong. So we have 2,000 times a rate of 0.05 for 5% times 2 years, which is equal to 2,000 times 0.05 times 2, which is equal to $200. So is it going to be, is option 2 going to be more than $200? Oh, yeah. This time we're just going to compare the interest amount because obviously we're going to have more money with the $4,000 invested because we started with more money. So 4,000 times 0.05 times 1 times 0.05. Oops, I was like $20,000. That doesn't work because I forgot decimal place. Times 1 is also $200. So they are the same. So if we look at our linear amount, investing $4,000 for 1 year, we're going to get $200 in that first year, which might feel better because we are having that $200 earlier, but we might not have $4,000. We might only have $2,000. So if we do $2,000, but twice the amount of time, we still get the same amount of money. So again, we have a linear graph. We're increasing by the same amount each time, but that just helps us compare in terms of what might be the best option, or if it really matters, and it depends on our situation. So if we have $4,000, great, we can get the $200 faster. If we don't have $4,000, we only have $2,000, we can still get the $200, just need to invest a little bit longer. All right, let's consolidate what we have learned today. We've been focusing on lesson 7, which is simple interest. This is linear growth, which is a straight line because our pattern is increasing, or it could be decreasing if we're paying off debt at a constant rate. We're paying off, it doesn't change. We're always paying the same amount. Our formula is I equals PRT, where I is equal to interest earned in money, your principal, your P is your principal amount, how much money you start with, you invest, or that you're borrowing. Your rate is your interest rate, and it has to be, though given as a percentage, has to be written as a decimal. And your time in years, so you always need to pay attention to make sure that it is actually in years. To find the final amount, we add our principal plus our interest. So hopefully you're comfortable with our success criteria. You can use the formula I equals PRT to calculate simple interest. You can explain the significance of constant growth to simple interest, so you can see that linear growth. And then you can also explain the details of interest rates and time periods in terms of simple interest. So whether or not having a higher interest rate or a lower interest rate or a longer time or shorter period of time, how that might be effective, what that might change depending on your situation. All right, that's what we've done today. We've covered lesson 7. So if you have any questions, as always, please connect with me. Please reach out. I'm here to support you. That is my job. Give me a call at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free at 1-800-667-3703. Email me at bronwyn.slate@nnec.owen.ca, or send me a Facebook Messenger message at bslatewahsa. All of our lessons will be up on YouTube. My channel is bslatewahsa. Our playlist is MEL3E, which is our course code. So you can find this year's videos as well as previous year's videos organized all there so that you can find what it is that you need. Also, you can find the tech tutorials and any other mental math or other common errors or confusing concept videos there to help you out. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Though again, remember I teach from 9 to 11, so that is not a good time to try to get a hold of me. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day. Miigwech.